Hello, everyone. I have the pleasure to be here with inventor, Mr. Jack McCauley. And we have a fascinating lineup of things that we're going to cover today. Jack, before we get into all of your inventions, your career history, all of these really remarkable things that you've been able to achieve in your life, take us to the beginning. Where did you grow up?
So my dad was in the U.S. military, and we were stationed overseas in Netherlands, in De Bilt. There used to be an Air Force base there. I'm not sure if it's there anymore. And we moved back to California in 1970. So these experiences, and also I'm an artist. I like to draw and paint, and I like art. That's my primary driver. And creating cars and so forth, which is what I do, is art. It is art, and you put your personal taste into it and their design. So I've always been doing the creative stuff. And a student, I was a lousy student. I thought it was easy, and people said I'm bored in class. I was bored because it's just not fun. So,
and did your grades reflect that?
Of course.
Yeah.
But by the time I graduated high school, I got out early. I got out a year early. I tested out. You take a test and you can leave. By the time I graduated high school, I figured that if I wanted to go further, and they're plotters for plotting data. A plotter is a roll of sheet, two rolls, and it gets pulled across, and the plotter pen plots on the two rolls, and they use that for some certain things. So that was my job, and I wrote that in BASIC. And then I just developed an interest in programming. I found out I was pretty good at it. All it takes is an organized mind. You just have to be organized. And so I took this scholarship, and I went to UC Berkeley. I spent the first 2 years at a small college, and then I transferred to UC Berkeley. And the rest is history. I think the education I got there, it was the most significant thing in my life. It really is. I'm so thankful for that, and I got a scholarship, but the U.S. the taxpayers in California, they support the school, so really a scholarship, and I got money from the state, right? So I go to this, the scholarship was for low-income people. I am low-income, so a low-income person, you have to be competent and have a good aptitude, and so I applied for it, and I got it, I was working for the Navy, on submarines, actually, doing plotting and so forth. Anyways, I just like that stuff. I gravitate towards it. It's what I do in my spare time. I still do it. And these inventions and things that I have fostered over the past 45 years, Oculus was a long shot. It really was. I knew that when I joined the company, that they would struggle with trying to get that thing off the ground. It's too high a cost and too risky, very risky. Fortunately, we were bought by Facebook, Meta.
Well, before we go to Oculus, why don't we stop at Guitar Hero?
All right.
Because I grew up playing Guitar Hero. I was never any good at it. I always set it on the easy setting.
Right.
But I imagine you could probably shred on something like that. Yeah.
I got good at it. I haven't played it in ages.
Yeah,
so
of course.
So let me tell you how that went down. I worked with a guy from Take-Two, and Take-Two is a video game publisher. And he owned the hardware division for Take-Two.
What's another game from Take-Two that we would recognize?
Grand Theft Auto.
Oh, okay.
That's
Great.
Their big hit.
Yep.
Kelly Sumner was the original executive there. Kelly Sumner hired me to work at Guitar Hero. So to make a long story short, I got introduced to these guys. I go and I see it, and I don't know what to think of it. They had a demo game, and this was at CES, which is a big consumer electronics show. I go in there, I look at it, I go, here we go. Two pieces of plastic, and I've seen all this before.
You were not impressed, at least
No,
initially.
I never am. Here we go again.
Yeah.
But I like the guys. And the two brothers there, incidentally, Charles and Kai Huang, Charles got me a trustee position at the university. He's also a Berkeley guy. Both of those guys are all Berkeley guys. So they bring me in and they show it to me. I look at it, and it just wasn't flying with me. I thought it was it's a rhythm game, like Dance Dance Revolutions. DDR is a dance pad game. Incidentally, they had a dance pad game, and they had the engine to run, the timing engine that run on a PlayStation 2. these two guys, and we got sued for infringement. The game itself was all done by a cover band. The guys who were in the cover band worked at the company. One of the guys there.
You're kidding me.
No, the Wave Group. They did all the covers for it, including the vocals, everything. Multi-track, because we couldn't get the artists to give us their tracks, except one guy, and that was Dave Mustaine from Megadeth. Megadeth's a metal band.
Yeah.
He saw that, and this is going to be the biggest smash hit. He knew. He works in that business his whole life. Now, you can say I think he's a very smart guy. Actually, he is. He's an unusual person. But to be able to see that, he's in that business. He knew it right away. And he said, you can have all my master tracks. We got masters for Symphony of Destruction. Yeah. So I didn't actually work on that part. That was done by the business people. I'm an engineer, so.
Yeah.
So my contribution to Guitar Hero is most of the guitars. The first game we did, a PlayStation 2, we used a PS2 chip inside the guitar. It's just a PlayStation 2 controller. The second iteration, we had a slider on it. Still a lot of that, but mostly custom stuff. I did the drums, all the drum stuff, the percussions, and most of my job. It's such a big enterprise, I can't possibly do it all. So we had a team of engineers in China working on it with the factory. When I went to the factory, we had several factories. We had 3. When Honeybee Electronics and Burway, it's an interesting story here. When you're working with people, especially when there's a lot of stress, sometimes you get on each other's nerves, right? And
sure.
Yeah, and that happened, and things were said, but all was forgiven in the end. And when Lee came back to me a couple of years ago and needed a place to stay, I lent him my commercial building. I said, you can just camp out here, because of what he did for me.
It's incredible.
Yeah. The cash outlay for doing hardware is the problem. It's a significant amount of money. Now we have the capital to produce it. In my view, we sold the company too cheap, 120 million, and because one of the Red Octane was the name of the company that produced the game. So one of the guys there was a venture guy who had invested an angel investor in Taiwan. He had to be paid back. So
you think that the company could have received a lot more?
$2 billion franchise, the highest gross sales of any video game ever up to that point. Total surprise to me.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and so they bought the company, and now we're growing, and it's not just me anymore. This takes a lot of people to produce that. We have them, and we have the staff, but still, we were only about 35 people at Red Octanes. That's all it takes. That's all it took. Contrast that with other companies where they have a high head count, and I just don't think that is effective sometimes.
What were some of the initial difficulties when developing the Guitar Hero platform, engineering the tech specs, and ultimately how did that differ from what was the final product of it that it shipped out?
So it had a slide control on the neck, and that was my design. I don't think we ended up using that. They used something else they had. We got sued because of the shape of the guitar. It looks like a Gibson. We got sued by Gibson because we stole their.
They said you're stealing our design.
We kind of were, and so we had to change the design. And the next one we came out with an Explorer type guitar, but basically that was it. It was pretty trouble-free. I mean, the fact is we had no returns, zero, no defects at all, and that's because of the manufacturers are good and we're doing our job basically. The first game was written by Harmonix, Dan Sussman, and it's Harmonix, a game studio, dev studio. The second game was written by Neversoft down in Los Angeles, and that's where I worked at Neversoft down there. And after that, it was all Neversoft. Neversoft, great company, a little studio, but didn't take that many people to write that. It's a pretty simple game, right?
Yeah.
So back to your question about master tracks. After Guitar Hero 2 came, we were producing Guitar Hero. Now they all want on board. Metallica, all those guys want to get in on it. Yeah, get the royalties going.
Yeah, of course.
Now we got master tracks, so we use their masters. And I didn't do the equalizing on the masters. That was done by Harmonix. Neversoft. They had an audio engineer there that did all that for them. But now we have the masters, and the thing's going global. I used to see it on television, all over the place. And how did I know that? I didn't know it was going to. You never know. It's hard. People can say they knew it was going to happen, but they don't actually. Because I have worked on other things, which had great possibilities that didn't go anywhere.
Sure.
I had 2 camera companies. Lucid Cam, which failed, a stereo VR cam, and I had another camera accessory company for GoPro, and that failed.
But was it a problem, a flaw with the design of these cameras? Why do you think that the market just didn't accept them?
Lucid Cam is a stereo camera with the IPD, which is the distance between your pupils set to 2 camera modules. So you take a picture and it gets it in stereo, right, for your eye. And it's just too difficult and too expensive to manufacture. We went to Taiwan for the camera modules, but it just turns out it was too tough. And the CEO closed the business, and that's the right thing to do. You don't want to bleed to death. Keep pumping money in there, and it's just not going to go anywhere. We had actually had very few investors. I was an investor in Lucicam. The other company was Ampio, and we had a GoPro accessory to turn a GoPro camera on remotely. Like you could put it in a bush and hit a button, and it would turn on and off. Yeah.
So it was like a manual device that would push the button, or
no. I reverse engineered their camera bus, and found the mating connector for it. You have a special connector for it. I just reverse engineered it, just playing around with it, and I found out that the power button is shared on the bus handily. So that's what we did. And the issue was this, is that we self-funded it. I funded it, and my partner, who's a great guy, we're still friends. The issue is the cost to produce and sustaining the business. So we don't want to keep dumping tens of millions of dollars into it. You gotta, at some point, you have to be self-sustaining, right? And this isn't a popular model I've noticed in the Silicon Valley, but you have to be self-sustaining. And it just wasn't. We could sell, for every one that we could sold, we could only produce one more. So we can't grow the company like that.
No.
None of us did the calculation, oddly enough. No one looked at that. I kind of did. I just say, it's fun. I need it anyway. So if we make it and it doesn't move, I'll just keep it. So, and my partner was a race car driver. I have race cars too. I'm into that stuff. He was a race car driver, and he wanted them for his car. He went out on the track so he could watch stuff. And so this was a selfish motivation. People like it. I showed it to Cycle Gear and other retailers, and they loved the thing. But a 350,000 piece order, we got to come up with some serious money.
Yep.
And it's too risky. So this is the issue with hardware. It is very risky.
Do you still get involved and try new ventures, experiment with entrepreneur ventures still?
Not so much, because what happens with me is I will try to run your company. I know myself. I'll try to run all the production and manufacturing. I'll tell you what, I don't want to do that. We're doing this, and it's not good.
Yeah.
So that's why I don't do it. It's better for me to be a casual observer or an advisor, but not actively involved. So to answer your question, I don't do that because I feel sorry for the people I work with. So it's just, it's difficult. I have a set way of doing things. I'm not young, and this way of doing things is learned through experience. Like, I know what to do, the regulations and so forth. You make a radio-controlled device, let's say the GoPro, remote control, it has to go through FCC testing. I have to take it to a lab and all that. It's very complicated. It has to do materials testing to see if there's lead in it. They grind it up into a powder and then they test for lead. So you have to do all this stuff, and I know how to do that. So this is my experience, and especially with working on Guitar Hero. You asked me about the Guitar Hero stuff. I had all the intellectual property for controllers already. I was building PlayStation 2 chips, selling them. I was selling light gun chips, PlayStation 2 chips. A light gun is like playing a video game you shoot at the screen. That's what my specialty was, actually. Steering wheel chips, all of that I had from my history, working in that industry. So it's just a matter of porting it over and changing a couple things. It was a pretty simple thing.
Maybe simple for you.
Well, I think it would be simple for anyone. If it's already working, you just have to edit a couple lines of code and rebuild it, and that's done. So that's, thanks, but that's essentially what I did on a lot of this stuff, is just duplicate what I had done before. I already passed all the compliance testing with it, protocol tests, all that stuff got passed. So I reverse engineered a lot of stuff. I would buy like a Konami or a Namco light gun or a light gun, and then take it apart and figure out how the protocol works, and then copy it. And that's legal to do. It's not illegal. Reverse engineering is not illegal. Of course, you can get threatened, but I had patents, and I patented everything because it was trying to protect myself. That was the motivation. Because when I did the original scrolling mouse, it had a scrolling wheel on it, right? That's my invention.
It's a scrolling wheel?
Yeah, the one on a mouse, yeah. That was for video games. No. Oh. When I did that, I didn't patent it. I didn't know about patents. It was like 27, something like that. And lo and behold, it started showing up everywhere. But I think that was coincidental.
What made you think of that, of the need for a scrolling wheel?
To go into a video game and move into the video game by moving the wheel. So you can go X, Y, and then you can go Z, so you back out. So you could avatar. That was the motivation behind it.
Makes sense?
Yeah, but that's not how it's used. It's used for the slide bar on the side of a window.
Of course.
It's okay. So after that, I started patenting everything that I could. And I filed patents many. I don't lost count, and sometimes I just abandon them if I can see it's not going anywhere. But the important ones, the Guitar Hero patents, those are mine, and other people, but mostly my stuff. And the drum kit.
Yeah, going from this Guitar Hero journey, what led you into getting into the VR space?
Okay,
how did that begin?
Well, I'll have to walk backwards a little bit. In the early 2000s, there was a company called Global VR, and I sold hardware to them to operate their Global VR through a distributor.
What did that platform look like?
It had a helmet that was fixed on a boom, and you put the helmet on, and it had an LCD, low-res LCD display in it, stereo. That's what it looked like.
And the helmet was on a boom, so you would lower it and like sit into a chair.
You'd move in it, and it would sense your head movement. You could walk or move around a little bit like that, right? So I sold them, and I figured, I don't think they did really well. It's really tough. But I had that background and experience, and those guys, what happened was, this is the thing about having connections with people. I'm connected because I maintain those relationships. Like the guy I told you who I let use my space and didn't charge him, not much, utilities or something, is that this guy will help me out. If I need his help, he'd help me. I sold him a 3D printer, I just basically gave it to him. So this is how it worked for me. I got the job at Kodak Research on Terminator 2 because it was my professor at UC Berkeley. And he hired me, and he was really tough to work for. He's really tough.
Was he?
He was tough, yeah. But he was a good.
He was hard on you, or
he was brutal. Yeah. He'd just tell you you're stupid, and it's like you're dumb.
That idea's not worth anything.
Yeah.
Back to
what
the
are you doing?
Board. Yeah.
But I stayed in touch with that guy because I respected him, and I did like him. I know his family, and that relationship came. From that relationship, I got a trustee gig at a prestigious math institute. I'm good at math. I could do the mathematics, and that's how it went down. And so, the other guy I mentioned, the guy that I gave the commercial space to, he gets me a job through another guy at Guitar Hero. And so I didn't even have a resume. I mean, you have to give an employment application for HR, but I didn't have a resume. I just got referred. And they interview you, and if you know what you're doing. And then the Guitar Hero stuff led to stuff at Electronic Arts. I built a game for them called Active, and we had a heart rate monitor for it, for exercise game, right? And that is because I got referred to those guys, and they came and visited me and interviewed me. If I can move on to Oculus, I'll tell you how that went down. The guy who was the intellectual property, I'm a patent. I do patents. This is what we do at a company. You strategically design your patents. You have to do that. So I worked with this guy, Greg Deutsch, and he referred me to the boss of Oculus, Brendan Uribe. I got a referral. That's how he came. He shows up at my building. I have a commercial building with a lab and all that. and he's got this thing in his hand and a MacBook with boot camp on it. And I look at it and I go, oh no, here we go.
But you were not a hopeful.
No,
Yeah.
That's just too diff. But I mean, I'm better off selling components than whole fixtures, whole things. You're better off selling parts. That's where the revenue is. I remember when a PlayStation 2 controller on the open market in the 2000s was $1. It cost $1. You know, there's more than $1 of parts in there. That's what they're selling for. The chipsets and stuff was what I sold. What I did on Guitar Hero, this is interesting. I had an arrangement with a chip manufacturer where I earn commissions. I sell chips, I earn commissions, right? And that was the deal for me in a Guitar Hero. It was like I was earning a commission on each one of those. I went to the chip company and said, we're not buying any of your chips anymore, right? And so what the company did is change the part number. In my contract with them, it says it's that part number. Can you believe that?
They did all this just to cut you out?
Yeah, it was some big money. It was the big checks. Those are big checks. So, yeah, and then I just ate it. It's okay. I was, you know.
How did you feel at that? Because I mean, you have now this significant revenue source that's now gone.
Oh, I don't know. I had stock at Activision, so I didn't care. I mean, it was all right. You just lick your wounds, and I didn't know. You know, I asked the people at the with it, and we had no software.
Why is it so expensive?
Well, I'll give you the DK1, the first developer kit at Oculus. Our costs on that were about $150. We sold it for $300, $350. So it's the same problem I mentioned earlier. We can only make one. You sell one, you can only make one more. You can't grow a business like that. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. It was underpriced. And then the second developer kit comes out. Well, we did 3 developer kits. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, we had 3 different kits. So I'll just talk about the second one, DK2. Much higher bill of materials and cost on it, and still selling it for $350. I don't get it. But by that time we had pretty much hooked in Meta or Facebook. They were in love with the company. They loved the idea, and we were in 2 floors on Irvine, California, in a high-rise, really nice plush offices with graffiti, and it looked like a game studio. They went to Andreessen Horowitz, which is a venture capital company that funded Facebook, and they targeted a guy that knew Zuckerberg. I wasn't there, this is what I was told. So this is in 2014 in March, right? Almost 10 years ago since the deal closed, right? Almost attached to the home, there was a resort for entertaining, and I had that too, and it was huge. Huge house, huge backyard, beautiful pool.
This is your personal property.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then attached to that was my R&D facility and a vineyard. So
you're trying to do too many things.
Yeah, that's the problem.
Yeah.
That was the problem. And I unloaded it and cut down on I still have a nice house and stuff, but I cut down on the amount of work that I'm doing. So, and then the idea was maybe to spend more time at Berkeley teaching and so forth.
What made you initially want to get into the wine business?
I don't even drink the stuff. I bought it because it had a beautiful, large structure on the property that I converted to run my R&D center. So now I have more room at the R&D center, including a parking garage for my car collection. But that too was a burden. It was just the whole thing was a burden. And then when you have a thing like that, there's pesticides involved, and the neighbors don't like it. They complain about the noise, and don't live next to a farm, you know, if it's kind of noisy. And then you have rodents and all kinds of issues. It's just too much. And we lost 2 years of production due to spoilage. It's gone. It's a very, very dangerous business. In California right now, there's a glut of wine grapes. There's too much planted.
Too much planting?
Too much, yeah. They can't sell it. It's going for like nothing. The juice, they crush it and it's called juice. It's not a good business to be in. And if you're Wente, which is a big producer, Concannon, you can do it because you got 1 million acres and you've got established. Found another place. It's a little bit more remote in a rural part of the county. It has 2 homes on it. It's got a field around it. I have no neighbors, which is great, and private road with the gate and all that. So I found this place.
You still have an R&D lab?
I do, but it's much, much smaller. I do small stuff now. I don't do any. It's the last car project that I'm working on one now. I'm never going to do that again. You know, it's just too difficult.
Are you a car guy?
I am.
You've
yeah.
always enjoyed cars, working on them.
Yeah. When I grew up, you were measured by your car, the nice car. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So I always wanted nice cars. I see the guys driving like a dentist. He's a dentist down the 2 neighborhoods over. He's got a really nice car. I always wanted one. When I graduated from Berkeley, I went to the Ferrari dealership and I was going to buy one, used one, because they were pretty much of a bargain. And I just never did. So later on, I started. The first car I built in my garage, and the second car I built in my driveway and garage. The other cars were built. I build them myself. I only have one. I have a little EV. I had 2 EVs, but I just drive those. Just a beater car, kind of. The 2 other cars, one of them was finished in 2020, and I have one that's about done. And
what is that vehicle?
I have a Fiat 500. Now, this is an older one. It kind of looks like a bar of soap a little bit.
What year is it?
It's a 76.
Oh, okay.
And imported from Italy. I have taken that and this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be able to drive it on the highway. You cannot drive that car on the highway. It's got a 2-cylinder engine and it has 19 horsepower. It's not powerful enough. It's a city car.
Is that why you chose the Fiat 500?
I like the little car. It's
you like the design, you like the way it looks. Yeah.
It's aerodynamic. It's really pretty good. And I took the engine and powertrain out of that, and we built. I took a ZX14 motorcycle, 1400, 215 horsepower motor. My stuff's all overpowered, and put that in the back, and put a radiator in it, and get fuel tank, and built all the parts for it, including brand new suspension design, new vehicle dynamics with McPherson struts, and changed all of it. So now I have a car I can drive to LA if I want, and it's loud, and it's super fast, and a little scary. So it's perfect.
You weren't concerned about putting airbags or anything like that?
No, none of my cars have airbags in them. I mean, my production car I bought, yeah, but not the stuff I build.
Yeah.
The one I finished in 2021 really is like a work of art, and it is. I bought a body from a '69 Lola T70 Mark III, a Le Mans car. It's a Le Mans car I drive on the street, and it's super loud. All my cars are loud. And so I drive that on the street. I started that in 2015 and finished it in 6 years, but I was working on it almost full time. And we made the wheels, the wheel centers, we made the suspension, all the parts we machined in-house on a lathe and a milling machine. It's got extensive use of 3D printed parts in it. And so I designed all the hinges, the strikers, everything was done in CAD. And we finally painted it. It's painted orange.
Is it lightweight?
Yeah, it's 2,000 pounds. It's 600 horsepower, so it's no slouch. And I'm kind of respectful of cars like that. I don't want to get hurt. But to your question, there's no airbags. The safety equipment consists of a full roll cage, like explosives.
Yeah.
It's not a good idea, but that's what I was into. And one of somebody, I'm not gonna say who, stole benzoyl peroxide, pure benzoyl peroxide from the school.
It's very flammable?
No, it's a HE, high explosive, if you heat it to 80 degrees centigrade and you shoot it with a gun. You have to hit it with a big shock wave. And so we did that, and that was not a good idea. The fire department came, the cops.
Oh, are you serious?
Yeah, I was in high school. Other things like that. But interestingly enough, I would like to try to figure out the chemical equations. That's how I sort of got my hook on chemistry. I'd write down the chemical equations, the molar ratios and so forth to see what it took to do it. Not on that one so much, but the other stuff we built, explosives. I remember one time I was up on my roof and I had made black powder. It's made from charcoal, potassium nitrate, and sulfur in a particular portions, right? And I was grinding it up and it lit off and it slid down the roof right where my dad was standing. So I stopped doing that stuff. I wanted to keep my hands and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's been other stuff with firearms and things like that I've done, but I don't really do that anymore.
Tell me about the EV market. Where do you see this field in general going? Is it hopeful? I mean, we certainly see a lot more adoption in the marketplace. Are they as capable now as you had always envisioned them?
So Here's the thing. Let me just do some math for you to explain the advantage. So, when you combust natural gas at a power plant, it's roughly 50% efficient because they do energy recovery. So half of the molecules of gas, so there is your advantage, mile for mile on flat ground. The Tesla has another feature, not just Tesla, it's called regenerative braking. So when you push on the the brake pedal, the energy of the inertial energy of the vehicle gets recovered in the batteries. On a gasoline car, one of two things can happen. One is they do compression braking, or you use the energy, the inertial energy as heat. So there's the advantage. You lose it. So it's even less than 29%. They're really inefficient. This is the issue. Now, the infrastructure to charge vehicles is just not here.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not in Europe. We're set up for natural gas and coal and electricity for lights and stuff, but you have to have a lot of power at your house for an EV. And in the US, we call that 200 amp service. That's your minimum. Most homes in the US built 30 years ago are 100 amp service. They just don't have enough power in the house to charge a car at your house. So you got to get a house with a lot of power, and it's a newer house. And this is the issue. Now,
Jack, we're actually running out of time here. We only have 4 minutes, but so that's how I want to spend the rest of the time. You are an inspiration for so many reasons.
Thank you.
You're an incredible entrepreneur. You've had so many failures and successes, mostly successes. What would you advise people who are on their own entrepreneurial journey? What kind of advice would you give them? People who are starting out.
Yeah. Get as much if you're going to be a technical startup, let's say software, something like that, AI software, get as much education as you can. I am highly educated. I got post-grad work in AI going back to the 90s. I didn't know anything about it, how it worked, or is it a brain, really? No, it's not a brain. So get as much education as you can, and you use it. That's exactly what I did. I'm highly educated, and I'm good at what I do, and I'm creative. So use your creative mojo at your career. That's my advice. The idea, as I've explained to you, sometimes they don't even make sense. You just go work there and you think it's cool, and it doesn't always work out.
And how do you keep up the motivation after a series of failures?
I just ignored it. I just pretended like it didn't happen. I did.
I like it.
Yeah, it's like, oh well, there goes another huge amount of money down the. There's actually tax things you can do. You can mess around with your taxes, write-offs and so forth for failures like that. I mean, you can do stuff. But generally, I just licked my wounds and went to the next thing. And mostly through people I knew. That's how I got my gigs. All people I knew.
For anyone watching right now, how can they get in touch with you? What's the best way to reach out to you?
LinkedIn. And I don't monitor my LinkedIn site, my assistant does, but she'll filter those, because some of them are like trying to sell you stuff, whatever. She'll filter those, and then she'll give them to me and ask me how to answer them, and she answers some of them on her own sometimes, but that's the best way. LinkedIn.
Incredible. I can't thank you enough. It's been a pleasure. I feel like I could talk for hours with you, Jack. I mean, you're really it's such an inspiration.
You did a good job yourself. You're good at this.
All right. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of the time in Ireland.
Yes.
And what about another tech conference? Are you speaking anywhere upcoming?
Yes. June 1st and 2nd in San Francisco, at 17th, 18th in Long Beach, and more later on.
Okay, great.
And this one, of course. So
we'll keep an eye out for you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack.